To get started, we're going to just build a little ramp. So if you have a bolster-like object, grab it. If you have like a comforter, you could roll up the comforter, kind of make a firmer blanket roll. We're just going to set up like this. We're not going to lay down just yet, but I'm thinking we'll begin in a seated meditation. And you can start the music whenever you want, at any point in time. All right, so finding the most comfortable seat for you, whatever that is. Maybe you want to sit cross-legged or your heels. All right, maybe you don't want to sit up. Maybe you want to lay down on the bolster, and that's fine too. So just picking your favorite. Hi, Deb. Hey, Penny. All right, sit up nice and tall. And notice where your head is in relation to your pelvis, and see if you can just kind of bring the head above the pelvis if it's forward. Notice each one of your shoulders. And see if you can become aware of any sensations around the rib cage. So the center of the chest, in between the shoulder blades, down into your lungs. Really feeling your breath coming and going. And just take notice if you're feeling any tightness. Maybe you're noticing a sense of freedom. Good. Let your back muscles hold you up but be relaxed, and then let the front of your body also hold you up but be soft. So without clenching, just sit tall. Good. And let your breath move your body. And as you sit or lie here, I'm going to read you a poem, of course. A Mary Oliver poem called Bone. Understand, I'm always trying to figure out what the soul is and where hidden and what shape. And so last week when I found on the beach the ear bone of a pilot whale that may have died hundreds of years ago, I thought maybe I was close to discovering something. For the ear bone is the portion that lasts longest in any of us, man or whale, shaped like a squat spoon with a pink scoop where once in the lively swimmer's head, it joined its two sisters in the house of hearing. It was only 2 inches long and thought, the soul must be like this, so hard, so necessary, yet almost nothing. Beside me, the gray sea was opening and shutting its wave doors, unfolding over and over its time ridiculing roar. I looked, but I couldn't see anything through its dark knit glare. Yet don't we all know the golden sand is there at the bottom, though our eyes have never seen it, nor can our hands ever catch it, lest we would sift it down into fractions and facts, certainties. And what the soul is also, I believe I will never quite know. Though I play at the edges of knowing, truly I know our part is not knowing, but looking and touching and loving, which is the way I walked on softly through the pale pink morning light. Though I play at the edges of knowing, truly I know our part is not knowing, but looking and touching and loving, which is the way I walked on softly through the pale pink morning light. And so just allowing yourself maybe like another 10 breaths here in the seated position. And another generous handful of breaths. Good. And if you feel like you want to roll the head around in some way, you're welcome to do that. Maybe you're just dropping an ear to a shoulder and then the other. It could be a bigger movement. As you move your head around, allow your facial muscles to relax. Good. And notice how things feel in between your shoulder blades. Good. Down into the middle back and then the lower back. Good. And then when you feel ready, just open your eyes if they're not already open. And we're going to take a twist on this little ramp that we created. But before we do that, I think we're going to pull our ears and just like rub our own heads for a minute. So I want you to kind of be intuitive about this. Just pulling at your earlobes. Maybe you're pulling them up to the sides or out or down. All right, maybe you're taking like circular motions and listening to those strange little weird sounds that happen when you move your ears around. Good. And if it feels like the right thing, to slide your fingertips up into your hair and give yourself a little massage. Of course, you're welcome to do that at any point in time. Good. It might be nice to focus in on that space just around your ears. And up at the top of the head, where you might grab a hold of your hair and gently pull up, or conversely, like press your hands down. Yeah. Why don't you take another 10 breaths worth of some kind of little massaging action from the neck up. Good. A few more breaths. All right. So we're going to take our little bolster twist here. And just take your time getting into it. I think at first we'll take the right hip up to the bolster and just kind of set up so that your knees are pointing over to the left. You might have a blanket wrapped around your legs. You might place a little extra padding in between your ankles, but eventually you'll just turn your chest towards the bolster and lay your belly down, or the side of your body down, or whatever touches. And when you set your head down, really let the head sink into the bolster, or whatever's underneath you. Notice the way your ear presses into it. And the side of your jaw. Good. Breathing deeply into this body, however it presents itself this morning. Good. Notice the muscles of your face, notice your eyes, and maybe allow the eyes to relax just a little bit. Good, and take notice again of that space, well, two spaces. First up around your chest and upper back and shoulders, and even down into the elbows. The second space to notice will be at your lower back, just above your sacrum. So starting with whichever one feels best to you. And maybe you're taking a few breaths and really noticing the lower belly and lower back move. Maybe the next breath invites a gentle softening through the chest, upper back. Just easing yourself in. Good, we'll be here for maybe another 15 breaths or so. And you might have your head so that your right ear is down. You can stay there. You can play around with maybe turning your head to the other side, placing the left ear down and noticing how things feel there. And just knowing that you can always go back. Good, a few more deep breaths here, maybe turning your head back so that your right ear is down. Good, and then from here, just take your hands down, lift yourself up, and we're gonna sit up for just a moment here. And as you come to sit up, let's interlace the fingers and just kind of move the wrists around a little bit. Good, you might decide to move the head around a little bit, depending on how the neck was feeling when you were in the twist. If you're taking those motions with your wrists, try to take them the other direction. See how that goes. Good, and then let's flip the palms, press them forward, and then reach those arms up. Good, and go ahead and drop the hands down, and we'll just take the twist on the other side. So getting there at your own pace, left hip up to the bolster. Yeah, sip your tea. And just spend like however much time you need getting settled and comfortable in this pose. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you can like flop right down into it. Every day is different. Good. Really letting both the low back and low belly and the chest and upper back and shoulder area come into your awareness and soften them if it's possible.
Right? Sometimes we hold on to tension that we can easily release, and other times it's really deep in there. Good. So just doing what you can, or I guess maybe not doing, not doing anything, letting yourself settle. Good. Allow your lips to soften, your jaw. And feel the way that left ear presses down. Let your head be nice and heavy right into that point. Good. About another 15 breaths. Maybe you're turning your head so your right ear is down. Good. A couple more breaths here. And you might decide to turn your head back to the other side. Good. Just letting your breath get nice and big and fill you up and empty out. Good. And then when you're ready, take your hands under your shoulders, press yourself up. And we're going to come back to sitting on the heels. So it might be nice to take something underneath you, maybe like a block. If it's a little intense in the ankles to sit like this, or a rolled up blanket might be nice. And let's just sit up nice and tall for a moment here. And we're just going to take our hands to our belly and right to the midline of our belly and just kind of drag the fingers out to the sides. So just giving yourself that little bit of like a tummy rub. And kind of working your way up and down a few times from those lower ribs, like just where the breastbone ends actually. So you're going to graze those lower ribs and then kind of graze the sides of your waist and maybe even the top of your pelvis. And then take your hands around to your back and just give yourself a little something back there, like a little squeeze maybe. Good. And then we're going to come on to hands and knees. And as you find hands and knees, let's think about just like making a circle with the tailbone at first. So not really worrying too much about the upper body. Okay, just allowing the fingers to be spread wide, but drawing that circle with the tip of your tailbone in one direction for a few, and then in the other direction for a few. Good, and then get your shoulders in on it. You're gonna sort of rock side to side here, bringing the shoulder towards the hip, stretching the sides of your rib cage. Good, and then just do your thing, whatever feels good. Like I'm doing a little like jump roping action with the spine, but maybe you wanna take some cats and cows. Another really lovely option is to find some stillness with the spine, keeping the spine sort of neutral, and then allowing your belly to just drop, your belly to hang heavy. Good, we're gonna take maybe another 10 breaths or so worth of either some kind of movement or that bit of stillness. Good. Right, and then we're gonna bring ourselves into a Sphinx next. And you can take it like totally prop free, or you might decide to to keep your bolster where it is and kind of set your lower ribs down on the bottom of the bolster, if that works for you. Good. Yeah, maybe giving yourself that bit of support. If you've got the bolster there, you might set your head down and really relax your upper back and shoulders. And even if you don't have anything underneath you, dropping the head down can be really nice. Good, and then notice that space in between your lower ribs and the top of your pelvis, the front and the back, and just let it all soften a bit if you can. Good, why don't we stay here for like another minute and a half or so. And you can choose to stay just like this. If you like something a little bit bigger, you can place your hands down on the floor and kind of press into them and lift the elbows for a seal pose. Or maybe you just want to come down to the floor because we're all going there next. So just taking a little bit of time here, a little bit more time. Good. Another couple breaths. Right, perfect. If you have a bunch of props underneath you, just really mindfully move them away. Send them off to the side. We're all gonna come down onto our bellies and take just take any comfortable pose. So I'm gonna take my arms alongside me and maybe tuck my hands under my hips and rock my hips side to side, but you can set your arms up however you want, whatever feels coziest and comfiest. And so we were just compressing the low back a whole lot and the area around the kidneys. So let's take a few deep breaths and really notice the amount of movement there. Notice the way your chest connects to the floor. The way the shoulders soften down, the upper back gets broad. If you have your head turned to one side, let's turn it over to the other side. Take another 10 breaths or so. Good. From here, just take that right knee and slide it up towards the right side of your chest. Finding a little bit of space there on the inside line of the right leg. Really focusing on the way the foot and the ankle feels specifically. Really let the toes relax. And notice the knee, the hip. Low belly, low back. The rest of you breathing. Good. So maybe just another few deep breaths right here. You could decide to stretch that right leg out nice and long if that works for you. All right. And then you're going to keep that right leg sort of as it is out to the side there. Let's take the left arm out nice and long like a T. And we're going to roll over to our left side. And keeping that left arm back behind you, just take that right foot and place it behind the right thigh like a little kickstand. Good. Coming into your nice shoulder stretch, a little bit of like a low back and low belly twist. Really feel the sole of the right foot planted down on the floor. And if your low belly and low back are not really receptive to this kind of movement, you can always just bend both of your knees and stack them out in front of you. Good. Keep settling in. Let's take maybe like 2 minutes worth of breaths here. Good. If you want to, you might play with taking that right arm back behind you, right hand to the lower back, and just broadening across the collarbones a little bit. Maybe even like taking the heel of your hand and massage sacrum and maybe even part of the tailbone. Good, and then slowly roll yourself back through to the center. Good, we're gonna take the hands under the shoulders and just shift back, ooh, I'm stuck, into a puppy pose here. So you can take a blanket under your knees if you want, or maybe roll up a blanket to have underneath your head. Extend those arms out and set yourself down. Good, I like to cross my ankles here, maybe right on top of left. Good. Maybe another 5 breaths here in puppy pose. You can change the cross of your ankles. Press the top of the other foot into the floor. Good. Very slowly, just start to come back to sitting on the heels again. If you have your blocks nearby for your bolster, grab a hold of them. Good. And we're just going to take the blocks underneath the knees and come up into a toe squat of some kind. So you could be standing up on the knees, tucking the toes underneath. Maybe your hands are on the floor, or maybe you're sitting up tall. Just making sure those blocks are in a good setting so that all of your toes can connect and not feel like they're being like jammed into the floor. Good, and taking a moment again to just balance your heart above your hips if you're sitting up tall, your head above your heart. Good, and you might also decide to cross your arms over your chest and take your index and middle fingers and just kind of seek out that kind of like tender spot
just on your chest, kind of like at armpit level. And then taking a few moments to breathe deeply while you press in. Good, another 2 breaths or so. Good, and then just go ahead and release the hands. You can take those blocks out of the way and we'll slide back out to our bellies. And as you find your belly, and send those legs long behind you, you might even take the tops of your feet and kind of tap the floor. After all that toe squatting, sometimes, yeah, a little bit of the opposite is a good thing. You might shake your butt a little bit, side to side. You might take a couple of big breaths, focusing on your exhale. Awesome. Yeah, but eventually we're gonna wind up with our left knee up towards the left side of the chest in your half frog pose. Good, as you find your half frog, first allow your foot to soften, like really notice how your toes are feeling, if they're clenched at all. Good, notice the inner ankle, your arch. Good, become aware of the knee and the hip. Good, if you feel yourself clenching in the low belly or low back and you can do something about it, just let it soften. Good, we'll stay here for just a little while longer, letting yourself get nice and heavy and soft. Checking in with your face, your tongue. Good, eyes and ears. Good. All right, if you want to stretch that left leg out long and to the side for a couple of breaths, might be a nice time to do that.
Good, and then from here, just stretch that right arm out nice and long behind you, palm facing down. Oh, you might slide a block underneath your head and then just roll on over to your right. Maybe taking the sole of that left foot and kind of plugging it into the floor behind your right thigh. Yeah, like if your shoulder and your low back and belly are okay with that. And if not, just bend the knees. Get comfy. Good, settling in here for a couple of minutes. Good. Yeah, another small set of breaths here. Perfect. Start to bring yourself back through to the center. Oh, and as you get there, well, let's see, a couple of options. You might decide to come back up into a sphinx shape again, elbows under the shoulders. If you want to take an active back bend like a locust, that's also a thought. Or maybe you just want to like rock the knees side to side. There's really no like wrong thing to do here. Oh yeah, and I might also throw out a forearm plank or a plank if you have like a lot of busy body energy this morning. You know what I mean if you've got it. And you might decide to really engage and use it up in this way that's really constructive for your body. And just taking like a handful of breaths here before eventually we'll shift ourselves back into either a child's pose or a downward facing dog. Good. Okay, so yeah, eventually as you find your downward dog or your child's pose, just do your favorite things there. We all have our little rituals, our little movements. So doing those kind of like habitual favorite things, but also being attentive to what your body is asking of you right now. Maybe you want to drop the head way down. Maybe focusing attention on one particular part of your body. And about another 5 breaths or so. And eventually we'll make our way into a standing forward fold. If you're in your down dog, just walk your feet to your hands or the other way around. If you're in your child's pose, you might just kind of like play with unfolding yourself from child's pose and refolding yourself into the standing fold. Giving yourself a chance just to find a sweet spot here. You play with the positioning of your feet, the bend of your knees. Good. If it sounds appealing to you, maybe a few breaths in standing yoga mudra, and releasing your fingers behind your back and pressing your knuckles up. Good, and then really slowly just start to bring yourself up into a standing shape, maybe grabbing your strap or your scarf along the way. It might be that you bend everything, you just like roll yourself up super slowly, or maybe, yeah, it's a little different for you. We're gonna stand up nice and tall. And I think at first, we'll take a little bit of like a standing camel. So let's bring the hands to the lower back. And this doesn't have to be anything big. It can just simply be broadening your collarbones and like maybe gently looking up. If you feel like, really moving into it, feel free, that's fine too. Maybe the hip points move forward, the head drops back. Good, feel your feet on the floor. Good, and then let's sort of do the opposite of that, just kind of hugging around, softening the knees, dropping the head. Good, and let's come back up into that standing camel one more time. This time you might interlace your fingers and sort of slide your knuckles down your tailbone as you look up. Good, and then doing the opposite of that, let's bend the knees, other arm underneath, curl yourself in, hug around. Good, and then stand up nice and tall again, just kind of find your center. Let's grab a hold of that strap and take in your hands. And we're just gonna do like a little intuitive swinging here with the strap as a bit of a support. So it might be like taking big side body stretches, if that's what you feel you need. Or maybe you want to take like big circles. There's really no wrong way to move here. And you can stand totally still too, and just kind of hold yourself up. Right? Whatever makes sense. Maybe it's almost like you're kayaking. Good. You can move the lower body too. This doesn't just have to be relegated to the upper body. So maybe the feet are wide, knees are bent. Good. Just a few more breaths. Good, and then if you have that strap, go ahead and just release it down to the floor. We're gonna turn kind of like long ways on our mat so the toes are facing the long edge. Feet are gonna be a little wider than hip width, knees bent, and we're gonna bounce. Let's do our shaking qigong. Good. No effort here, just kind of letting it go, letting it bounce, letting your muscles soften. Maybe your arms start to move a little bit, but not because you want to, just because that's what they're doing. Good, focusing on that downward motion. And maybe another like 30 seconds of this. Good, soften your face. Shoulders, head and neck. Good. And then stand up nice and tall and just hold still. Your feet still sort of wide. You might decide to float the arms up and overhead here. And maybe the hands connect and you make this like circle around your head. Good, and then let's bring the hands down to the hips
And your feet might be wide enough for a standing forward fold here, a wide angle, or maybe you want to take them out even wider. It's totally up to you. And as you fold into this, really let the head drop down. And you might take a couple of lion's breaths, stick out your tongue. And then you might decide to revisit that bit of like a scalp massage here. Good. Let's just take maybe like another 10 breaths. You might decide to like bend the one knee deeply, the other knee deeply. Maybe you want to like take some twists here. Or of course, there's always stillness. Always that. Just a few more breaths. And very slowly, well, we're going to come to our backs eventually, but you might want to stand all the way up and lift up for a few moments and take a stretch. Step the feet together and then sit down. Or maybe you just want to get there. That's fine too. If you're coming to sit down from standing up, see if you can do it maybe without your hands. See how that goes. But when we come to the floor, let's make sure we have blanket and either a block or your bolster around. And I think, oh God, yeah, it's time for a final pose already. I can't even believe it. So I'm thinking of a restorative bridge pose. That might be really nice. After all that forward folding, a little bit of openness, but there's always everything else, right? There's always shavasana or legs at the wall, or taking a couple of little twists before finding your final relaxation shape. Yeah, there's always seated meditation too. So wherever you end up, just sort of giving yourself to the floor for a few minutes. The weight of your physical body really supported and held here. And beyond just the weight of your physical body, all of the movement and systems at work inside of your physical body, also supported by the earth. And recognizing just how supported you are. So one more time, by Mary Oliver, Bone. Understand, I am always trying to figure out what the soul is and where hidden and what shape. And so last week when I found on the beach the ear bone of a pilot whale that may have died hundreds of years ago, I thought maybe I was close to discovering something, for the ear bone is the portion that lasts longest in any of us, man or whale, shaped like a squat spoon with a pink scoop, where once in the lively swimmer's head it joined its two sisters in the house of hearing. It was only 2 inches long, and thought the soul must be like this, so hard, so necessary, yet almost nothing. Beside me, the gray sea was opening and shutting its wave doors, unfolding over and over, its time ridiculing roar. I looked, but I couldn't see anything through its dark knit glare. Yet don't we all know the golden sand is there at the bottom, though our eyes never see it, nor can our hands ever catch it. Lest we would sift it down into fractions and facts, certainties, and what the soul is also, I believe I will never quite know. Though I play at the edges of knowing, truly I know our part is not knowing, but looking and touching and loving, which is the way I walked on, softly through the pale pink morning light. And so when you feel ready to move around again, you're welcome to do that. Allowing yourself just the right movements before you eventually come up to a seated position. Oh, hi everyone. And let's just look at each other for a second. Oh. All right, and maybe we'll do this too and like reach this way and reach that way until we can't see our hand in our square. Maybe our hand is going somewhere else and touching someone else. Go ahead and reach the hands up, reach nice and high. And then let's take our hands down onto our heart and just give ourselves some sweet little moment here. And maybe even a little gentle massage underneath the collarbones. And eventually the head settles down towards the heart and the hands, honoring your practice and everybody practicing with you. Oh, yay. Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you for coming.